This week's Performance Anxiety features Erick Lopez. He plays Hector in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. He's also a student athlete and an entrepreneur. We talk about his time in Carrollton, Texas, and how he went from high school drama and basketball to acting in LA. Check him out on social media and give us a follow at PerformanceANX on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to rate and review our shows on iTunes or any other platform you listen. Please enjoy Performance Anxiety with Erick Lopez.
Hey, this is Erick Lopez from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and you're listening to Performance Anxiety.
So what I want to do is start with really who you're not, because in researching you, I found out there are a lot of Erick Lopez's. There's a lot. You are not a gymnast. You're not a boxer. You're not the colonel in the United States Army. You're not a linebacker for the UTEP Miners, or a jockey, a saxophonist, a PhD candidate. You're not a transportation coordinator, the associate professor at the Department of Software Engineering and Information Technology of the École des Technologies Supérieures of the University of Quebec in Montreal, Canada, a Caltech student, or a deceased 36-year-old.
Right.
Okay, so you're none of those guys. You are the actor, Erick Lopez.
Yes, the actor.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on with me and spending a couple minutes talking about your career and what you've been up to, and hopefully some projects that are coming up. Thank you for coming on with me.
Yeah, no problem. It's awesome.
You didn't start out acting. You started out more as an athlete. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I was doing basketball growing up and played for my high school.
And that was in Carrollton, Texas?
Yeah, Carrollton. It's essentially, so it's Dallas, Texas, a little bit north of Dallas. Usually I just say Dallas because it's easy to pinpoint on the map, but it's probably about like 20 minutes north of Dallas.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. Now, how big was your school? I mean, were you and were you like one of the stars of the basketball team, or?
Oh no. I was one of those guys that I played the supporting role really well. It kind of stemmed from whenever I was kind of younger, maybe 8th grade, freshman year. I had a coach, especially going into freshman year, who really pushed me to be more aggressive and be that guy, be the star. And he's like, you got to shoot more, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I started doing that, and I was scoring like more points, and I was, getting to that point. But then I overheard some friends in the locker room. I guess I could call them friends. They're not really, really friends, but there's other teammates that were like, that were like, man, Erick's a ball hog, man. Like he's like, shooting it.
Oh.
And yeah, I know, and it hurt. And I remember talking to my best friend on the team, and I was just like, man, like I need to stop shooting. He's like, you don't listen to those guys. Like if you're scoring and we're winning games, like whatever. And I took it to heart because, being in high school, and especially freshman year, you want to make friends, you want everyone to like you.
Yep.
So I started I played more of a supporting role. Like if we're down, I'll pick up the pace, but for the most part, I kind of let everyone else get their fix. And it's funny because the people that were complaining that I was being a ball hog, they in turn it was because they wanted to be the star, and they wanted to be the ball hog.
Oh, man, it's always the case.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, just going that path, I never was too assertive as far as like trying to push myself to be the main guy on the team and be too vocal. I was just like, hey, I'm here, I'm gonna do my work, I'm gonna do it well, and I'll fit in wherever you guys need me. So yeah, that's my athletic career in a nutshell.
Well, it's serving you well now. So, who was your team though? Because now you're not originally from Texas. You were born in California, right?
Yeah, I was born in California. I was here for about 4 years, and my parents, after the Northridge earthquake, they were like, we got to get out of here.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, we moved out, and I was essentially raised for the rest of my life in Texas. And
So who are your teams?
For sure, the Dallas Cowboys. They have a huge fan base in California as well.
Oh, but they got a fan base everywhere. I'm in DC. I'm just outside of DC, and this is Redskins territory, and man, there are Cowboys fans coming out of the woodwork. It's insane.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, dude!
They can finally show their faces.
Oh yeah, they well now, yeah, they've been hiding them for a little while. But it's funny, if you ever go to FedEx Field, it's possibly and then this is not just me saying this from experience, because I'm not even really a Redskins fan. I didn't grow up in this area really, but this has actually been voted on. FedEx Field for the Redskins is possibly one of the 2 worst stadium experiences in the NFL. And it's not just it's not just for the high price of food and drinks. It's the awful parking, because I think there's one way in and one way out into the stadium. The parking lot is awful, and the fan experience is ridiculous, because Washington being such a transient area, you have fans of almost every team in the area. And one of the big problems with government, you get a lot of government people here. One of the big problems is when the Skins play, I mean, it's at best, it's maybe split 50-50 between the Redskins and whoever they're playing. So the opposing fans will take over the stadium, especially Dallas and Pittsburgh.
Man, that's crazy. I did not know that. I know that happened here in L.A., I guess, whenever the Eagles were rolling pretty well last year.
Yeah.
They were playing, I think they were playing the Rams last year, yeah. And then a buddy of mine went, and he was like, the majority of the crowd was Eagles fans.
That's crazy. I mean, man, God bless him for having great fans. A friend of mine is a really big Eagles fan, but I hate them. I hate the Eagles. I've gotta tell you.
For sure.
But if your fans travel, that's good for them. Horrible if you're the opposing team. So, all right, so you're a Cowboys fan. So getting all kind of a little off the topic here. You think Dak's the quarterback of the future in Dallas?
At first I said absolutely, and then whenever we were going through that rough period in the beginning of the season, it was very hard to tell. I didn't want to be like, oh, no, he's not our quarterback, because I felt like he didn't have the right weapons.
Okay.
So as soon as we got Amari, I was like, okay, now that we have Amari, now is his time to prove, is he going to be our quarterback in the next couple coming years or what? And because he was able to, show up and Amari, fit in like a glove and everything's rolling, I think he's kind of proven himself. We have to win a playoff game, though. If he doesn't win a playoff game in the next, if he doesn't have a big iconic moment in the next 2 years, I think we're going to try to draft someone else. I hope he does. He seems like a really nice guy. So. Oh yeah.
And I love Amari Cooper. I'm a big Alabama fan. I moved up to Virginia from Alabama. I'm a huge Crimson Tide fan. So I love seeing my guys do well. And
nice.
I'm glad to see Amari having a resurgence in his career, because he was struggling in Oakland there for a while. But
right, yeah. I mean, it's great that it's happening now with the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. And I was born in Texas, and I kind of grew up a Cowboy fan. I don't really follow a team in the NFL. I gravitated more towards college, and I follow my Crimson Tide guys in the NFL. So it's hard for me to watch Dak doing well because he went to Mississippi State. But I'm glad he's doing well with Amari. So, all right. So is Dallas your team in all sports? You Spurs and Stars fan, or?
Right. I would say pretty much across the board. Stars, Rangers. Mostly, I stick to the teams I hardcore follow are the Mavericks and the Cowboys. I used to be a big Rangers fan back whenever I lived there and I could actually go to the games. It's a little bit tougher. Yeah, it's a little bit tougher. I mean, to keep up with baseball during the regular season, but during the playoffs, it's always great to see the Rangers do well. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I was a big Rangers fan myself, because when I started really following sports, I spent most of my childhood either between Virginia and New Jersey. But when I started really following sports, I asked my dad, hey, all right, so where was I? I'm from Texas. What are Texas teams? So he threw them out, and I'm like, all right, those are my teams. So Rangers, Cowboys. So, but
Anyway, so you were an athlete in school, and where did the turn towards acting come in?
The turn happened it happened through an accident. I was playing basketball. It was like early on in the season of my junior year, and I came down. I got a rebound, and I came down, and I landed on someone's foot, so I twisted my ankle pretty bad.
Oh.
I tore a ligament, and I actually had to be in a cast, so I was out for a bit.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And then during that time, I had so much energy, and I wanted to focus on something because, basketball was my life. All my friends were in basketball. So I'm like, what can I focus my energy on? And I was actually taking a drama class at the exact same time. And because I was in that drama class, I didn't have to run around or do anything. I just had to recite lines. And it was pretty much like reading and, playing off that. So I was like, okay. So I focused all my time and energy on making sure that I was, for fun. I was like, I'm going to focus on this monologue that we have to do. Okay. So for like a month and a half, we had like a monologue. Maybe it wasn't a month and a half. It was a pretty significant amount of time that we had a monologue to memorize and kind of work with. And I did the monologue, I think for our midterms or something. And the drama teacher came up and he was like, "Hey, I think you should actually consider this like long term, And
oh, cool.
I think he was just buttering me up because he wanted more guys in the program. I knew what he was doing. Yeah. But obviously it worked. It worked because, on one hand of the spectrum, I was getting, on the basketball team, the coach was upset that, I went to the doctor and he was like, "Oh, why'd you go to the doctor? Now you're in a cast. Now you won't be able to take the cast off." And, varsity tryouts and stuff. So there was always like salt being thrown, like, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that." And it's like they never really focused on things that I was doing well. It was just kind of like, "Hey, you're doing," and I'm like, "Man, I feel like I'm not even wanted here,"
Oh, wow.
Even though I was getting playing time, I was doing well. Like, they were super nice guys, but I just felt like they already had their favorites. And I don't know. It was a very tough situation because that was that happening on one side, and then on the other side, you have this really enthusiastic drama, teacher who's like, "We'll work with your schedule and just let us know, and we can work with you, and I think you should do this." He was just super encouraging. In everything that I was doing, and I was like, "Oh wow, like I feel actually wanted here."
All right, so what was his name? Give me his name because if we can maybe we can get this out to him somehow.
Oh no, I had to follow up. His name is David Crutcher. I think he's still teaching probably somewhere in Knoxville, but I had to follow up because later on, once I finally got on Crazy X and everything, I'm like, man, I need to go back and find where he is because I need to thank him. And my wife's actually from Nashville,
okay.
And we made the trek out to Knoxville a few Christmases ago, and I met up with them for dinner, and we just caught up. So it was pretty fun.
Dude, that's awesome. That is really cool. All right, so you start this transition from athlete to actor. Was it something? Did you just jump right into it, or were you a little hesitant at first? Because I know I have friends out in LA right now who went a similar path, injured playing. He was injured playing football, and he had to take an acting class, and he just kind of was going through it because he had to, and then suddenly just slowly realized, I love this. This is great. Or was it for you? Was it something like you just immediately knew?
I think it was something like that. I immediately recognized that it was a challenge for sure. At first, it was a artistic challenge. Like, oh wow, like how do I, I thought making someone laugh was actually easy. I was like, oh, you can just make someone laugh because the words are so good, especially coming from theater. Like some of the dialogue and the scenarios were so great that I'm like, oh, there's not much of a challenge. But I'm like, so I lean more towards dramatic stuff. I'm like, how can I make this real but on stage? And I don't know. I just lean more towards that. And I think transitioning from sports, being an athlete, and training your entire life, really, you know what practice is like. You know what it's like to be in a big game.
Right.
You know where your mindset has to be. So I kind of took that same kind of formula, and I did the same thing for doing a play or doing a monologue. You know, I rehearse, and then, you know, the day of, I kind of like try to be loose and try to like, you know, be open to whatever happens. And then once you're actually playing, you know, just be like water, you know, like go with the flow, you know. So
then, and your background in sports helped you out, because I heard of this thing that you got involved in, and I call it a thing. I hate saying that, but I don't know exactly what else to call it until I jump into it. You got involved in competitive acting tournaments. What the hell is a competitive acting tournament?
I did. It was a competitive acting tournament. I was very intrigued by this. So that semester that I was hurt and I made the switch to acting full time, I had a decision to make that summer. My senior year, going into my senior year, am I going to go back to basketball or am I going to do acting full time? So I decided at the end of my junior year to quit basketball and to focus on acting full time.
Okay.
And then as I was mentioning that, I wanted to go, you know, face first, like, you know, just completely dive into acting, everything that was acting. And so I asked the people, the coach, and the drama teacher, and other actors, other thespians in the drama department, what's the best way that I can keep doing this? And everyone kept on saying, "Oh, well, you have to do interpretation, like interp." So pretty much what it is you go to different schools. So different schools have tournaments, right, on weekends or sometimes during the week. But you show up, you dress nice, right, because you're with the debate people. It's debate and interpretation. So you dress nice, you're all dressed up, and you're not dressed like the character or anything. So you're all dressed like, you know, like usually button up, suit, or whatever.
So like you're going to a debate.
Yeah, essentially like you're dressed like you're going to a debate or just like a button up, which was kind of weird to me, but I got it because I understood what they were trying to do, because they're trying to like have you focus, the judges focus on your performance and not necessarily what you're wearing.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So then you end up going into these rooms, right? So you show up, you know, you're like, all right, cool, I'm here for the tournament. And there is essentially like a playoff bracket, right? There's a bunch of different rooms. And let's just say, for example, you have there's dramatic pieces. So you do a dramatic monologue. You can do a comedic piece. So that's a separate bracket. Those are completely different competitions. You can do a duet where you do something with someone else, or you can do a duo, which is the same as a duet, except you can't touch or look at each other.
What?
Yeah, it's fascinating. You're both looking.
I don't know. What is the practical purpose of that, though? I don't get that.
It's actually, the creativity of it is like astounding. Like,
really?
You're literally. I had to like slowly get into that, because at first I did a dramatic and comedic and a duet, and I did the best with my duet because it's very easy to play off someone.
Right.
The monologues and comedic monologues were a little bit tougher for me, just because I felt like it was, I don't know, I was too aware. Like, you're in a room in a what's it called, in a classroom, and you have a judge like probably 2 feet away from you, sitting in a desk, and you have other students, like other competitors, like in desks, watching you. And some of them are enthralled. Some of them are like watching you and they're like, yeah. And then other ones are like just like staring you down.
Oh, geez.
I'm just like too aware of like the situation, because it's like if you're doing a scene with a reader, or if you're reacting off someone, that's one thing. But if you're literally like just doing a monologue and talking to the air, like I wasn't skilled in public speaking, so I became very nervous.
Oh,
and that was my strong suit.
Yeah. Man, see, that's crazy. See, that wasn't what I was picturing at all. I was picturing something more like, have you ever heard of chess boxing?
Chess boxing, no.
Okay, so what it is 2 guys in a ring with boxing gloves on, and they make chess moves, and then once they're done, they box around, and then they come back to the chess game.
wow.
And it's really bizarre. It's very you should look it up somewhere because it's really I can't decide if I'm fascinated by it or just think it's the dumbest thing in the world. But that's kind of what I was picturing. But I was picturing a bunch of kids acting and then beating each other up and then going to another room to do a different scene and then fighting. So no, I guess it's not what it is. Not what I was thinking at all. So I'm glad
you get it's interesting because like the way you advance is the judge gives you a score. So let's just say there's like anywhere between like 5 or 6 people to 10 people in the room.
Okay.
There's several different rooms, and the only way you advance to the next round is if you're one of the top 3 people. So you get a number, like 1, 2, 3. 1 means that you did the best at the entire room. So honestly, it really depends on. You could be in a room full of just awesome people, and there could be another room where everyone like is not as good or prepared, and they still have to advance 3 people, and the people that were better in the other room got kind of screwed out of it. So it was a very weird system. Yeah.
So do you pick one room per tournament, and you're there for that's your tournament is that room, or can you go from room to room? Is there enough time to go from room to room?
So you can pick whatever, like, I guess, category you want. Like, if you want to do a comedic piece, dramatic piece, duet, whatever, all that has to be assigned beforehand. And then once you get there, they tell you which room you're going to be in. And then you're always you're constantly switching rooms. So maybe the judge might stay there, and then another batch of people might come in. But for the most part, you're constantly like going from this room to the next room if you're doing multiple tournaments. If you're only doing like dramatic, then you pretty much just do that and you wait for the results.
Wow. So if you want to do more than one, you've got to be even if you just pick one, you've got to be prepared because you could be doing multiple scenes in one tournament then. So
there's people that were good at it. There were people that just did everything, every single like comedic, duet, duo, like all of them, and they killed it. They would always go to the finals in every single one. You're like, how are you so good at this? But,
how do you have time to do all that? I mean, just getting from one room to the another would take time.
Yeah, it's. I mean, once you memorize the lines and everything, it's just like doing a performance over and over again. But yeah, it was pretty fascinating. We got pretty far with the duet, and the duo that I did was pretty good. So, no mistake there that my best stuff was not by myself.
So all of that kind of gave you some chops to start doing it professionally. And your first paying gig was for Dick's Sporting Goods. Is that right?
Yeah, I had a buddy in class, in my theater class, who quit football, and he wanted to do this professionally, and he had the same mentality. He's like, "Yo, we have to get this money. You want to get this money? I'm trying to get this money, man." And then I'm like, "How do you get this money?" And she was like, "You have to get an agent."
Damn it!
You have to get an agent.
That's what I'm missing that part right now. Damn it! Took me to be 45 to hear that. Damn it! Thank you.
Yeah, and I was hearing it while I was still in high school, so it's kind of crazy. I recently did a talk. I went back to Texas. They had a Texas Thespian Festival, so it's a statewide festival for theater, like students and teachers, where they perform and they get to do workshops.
Okay.
So I was a workshop, I guess, speaker or instructor or something, and I did a couple workshops for the kids. I did about like 15 workshops, and I did just to like inform everyone on things that I wish I would have known. And I'm like, this is kind of cool that I literally was sitting where they were not too long ago, and moved to LA, and I'm on a show, and I've been on other shows. So it's like I just wanted to give back any information that I wish I would have known whenever I was still in high school.
Well, and you're doing that on your own as well with your own podcast, right?
Right. Yeah. And then the podcast is another way that I can do it. It's tough to stay on schedule with that. Everything going on.
I was going to rip on you a little bit for that because I listened to all 5 of your episodes, and I believe the last one
It was like a June or July.
Yeah, it was supposed to be part 1 of a 4-part series, and you left me hanging, dude.
I know. I need to come back to it. I've heard it from all angles, and I think I honestly need to just like sit down, crank them all out, and then release them for like the holidays or something.
See, exactly. But they actually, and in all fairness, they're good. They give prospective actors good advice. You're drawn from your own experience, and that's really valuable. So I'm not going to rip on you too much for not having updated it in 6 months.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's been 6 months.
Just a little. And I'm still waiting for part 2 of the 4-part series. So.
All right, you know what? It's happening. It's happening. I'm putting it out there.
All right, good.
It happened.
Good, awesome. Now I want to find out a little bit more about before we get into what you're really known for here. I want to find out a little bit more about what you're not known for. How is that rap career going?
Oh, geez. It's not really a career. It started off in elementary school, me just kind of writing little raps and wanting to be like Eminem or 50 Cent.
God, you're making me feel old, dude. Elementary school and Eminem don't go together for me. It's like, my second or third job in Eminem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm old. I'm
it's all, yeah. It's okay. I'll be telling kids about like Eminem. They'll be like, "Who?"
Yeah, those are delicious.
Yeah, the candy.
Yeah. All right. So elementary school and Eminem. Go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So yeah, I was doing that, and then as I was going on, I think the big switch was whenever I got a MacBook and I had GarageBand, and I was like, "Oh snap! I can put in a track here, and I can like do my own vocals and all that stuff." So I started playing around with that, and then slowly I got a microphone, and then I started, I actually, not many songs were released, but I actually probably done at least like 30 or 40 songs.
Oh, man.
They've all just and I've probably written way more. I've probably written like at least like 100 something songs. But I just kept them all like to myself because I feel like I'm a perfectionist, and I'm like, oh no, it's not good enough, or oh no, this isn't good.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing I've really released that I've shown like a lot of people is something I did for fun with a buddy of mine, because we would always like freestyle, and then I'm like, dude, we just need to make a song. So we made a song, and I put it on YouTube, and we made a music video in his apartment. I was like, let's just do this, and I edited it together. It's all goofy, but yeah, that was the extent of my rapping career.
Well,
yeah.
Look, you don't know unless you try it, so you gotta go out and try it, right?
Yeah, I think that's. I think one of the things that I wrote down whenever I'm like, I want to look back on life and say I don't want to look back and regret that I didn't do something. And one of those things is make a mixtape. So I want to make a full out mixtape, just make it fun and just have it done. And that's one of the things that I want to have done and not regret I didn't do,
So was your musical background? I mean, do you play any instruments, or is it strictly rapping and GarageBand?
Yeah, and GarageBand. I'm trying to think. I think early on I had a fascination with piano, but not your traditional, classical stuff. I had a fascination with taking R&B songs, or like popular pop songs, and finding covers online and playing like hooks or playing like melodies on the piano. Because I thought that was really fun. I'm like, man, everyone that plays piano, they kind of just play like the same old, classical, some beautiful songs.
Right.
But I'm like, I really like the popular stuff, but in a classical, piano way. So I would find covers online and practice doing that, or practice doing R&B covers and stuff. And it was pretty cool, to find all that stuff. Yeah. And then I think most recently I got into guitar. I did a play here in LA, and I had a few months, and I had a lot of downtime, so I picked up a guitar and I kind of taught myself a few little things here and there. Yeah, I don't know.
Nice.
I think I'm someone that just like loves. I just love the creative side of a lot of things. So that was musical instruments is always going to be like there to like play around with.
So did your I guess maybe fascination with music, was that what drew you to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know many musical comedies. I especially on, as a TV series. I haven't seen a whole lot of them. So it's really unique, but I don't think that's something that everybody would be drawn to from an acting standpoint, and let alone be successful at. So going in, I'm assuming you knew what it was when you went for the audition. Was that something that drew you to that series as something you wanted to do, the fact that it was musical?
I actually had no idea.
Really? Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, I had no idea. I remember I was on a TV show called Baking It on TV, and that was a comedy. And I don't know, it was kind of interesting how that audition for Crazy X came about, because essentially there wasn't any sides for it that they gave me ahead of time. They were just like, hey, show up, we'll give you the sides on the spot.
Okay, so now, just in case, what do you mean by a side?
Oh, sides is in like your script, like for your audition.
Okay.
So, for example, if I was going to go in for bad guy number 3 or something like that in a TV show, I would get an email saying, hey, this is where you have to go. This is what time you have to be there. And you would have the sides, which is like your script, which means it's only like 2 or 3 pages sometimes, maybe like 12 pages.
Oh, so like the side of a page.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you're not getting the full script, but you're getting like a piece of it. So they call them sides.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So then they didn't send those. So all I had to really work off of was, it was a new show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. It was starring Rachel Bloom and other Broadway stars. And I looked up Rachel, and I'm like, okay, I don't know exactly how they're gonna make this music video like YouTube sensation into a TV show, but I think her stuff is funny. Like, I thought her music videos were really funny, so I'm like, I trust that it's going to be funny because her stuff's funny.
Right.
And then the breakdown was that this character was a stoner. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do to like kind of stand out? And I just essentially was going through my closet, and I had recently come back from Hawaii, and I had a Hawaiian shirt. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this guy's like a surfer, So I threw on the Hawaiian shirt. I put on a bandana. I rolled up a bandana, and I put it on my head, and I tied it up, and I showed up, and I just, my whole mentality was, he's not stoned. Just super chill and happy.
I like that.
So, yeah. And then once I finally showed up, everyone else was like in a typical kind of like stonery type of wardrobe, which is like hoodie, jeans, big jacket, almost like they're either like they don't care or they're like on the couch all day.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh man, either I hit a home run or I'm going to get kicked out of the showing up in my Hawaiian shirt in like bright colors, while all these other guys are coming in with like gray, jacket and like looking super mellow,
filthy, and oh man.
Yeah, so it was tough. But I went in there and they gave me the sides, and immediately I read the dialogue, and I was like, wow, I connect with this. I totally understand the comedy they're going for. It was you could see, at least I could see like the character of Hector right away. And the casting director, Felicia, was like super nice, and she just like gave me complete free reign to just like be loose and have fun, and she encouraged me to keep going with whatever I was doing. So that was really cool. And then even on set, once I got on set, finally Rachel was the same way. She was like, hey, we're gonna do it a couple times, like by the script, and then like have fun, like we want to make it a loose, kind of set, and
oh nice.
We just have to do it by the books first, and then kind of do whatever we want.
So after your audition, how long did it take for them to contact you to let you know either they wanted to see you again or that you had gotten the part? I hear stories about it taking, sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it'll take a month, and then sometimes it's like right away.
Yeah, well, they had already shot the pilot. So here's the thing. I was in episode 2, and I would have to say maybe like a week or two after I did the audition, I got cast in it. And I heard stories from like White Josh, who's David Hole plays White Josh, who he originally auditioned for the role of Josh, funny enough, and I think, or maybe I think that's what he auditioned for. And then they ended up calling him like way later, like months and months later after he auditioned for that part, after they shot the pilot and everything. They're like, hey, they want to actually like cast you for this friend role as White Josh. Yeah, because he had done such a good job in the original audition that they're like, man, this guy's so good. Like we would, we think he fits in. We just need to figure out a way to make him fit.
Right.
So they just added him in as a friend. I thought that was pretty cool.
So, and then the character you play ended up actually being a surfer.
Yeah, and then that was even crazier because, right away, right off the gates, they're like, oh, this is, Hector. He's, I think he said I was a 203rd, and I was like, oh, 202nd, actually. But, yeah, it was kind of funny because once I saw that, I was like, oh, I guess they are going with the surfer instead of the stoner vibe.
Man, look at that. Influence in the script even before you get the part. Yeah. All right, so...
I mean, I can't take too much credit for that. I mean, I'm sure those writers, man, every writer on the show is like super brilliant, so I'm sure they probably already had that in the back of their head.
I don't know. I'm giving you credit for it. I'm going to give you 100% credit for it. So this is the last season of the show, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not going to ask for any spoilers or any dirt or anything like that. I promise you. But I can't promise that. I did ask some listeners for some questions, which I'm going to ask you at the end of the interview. So if there are any questions that are about that, I don't take any credit for them. So, but your character Hector he's married, and you were married. Did that happen pretty much at the same time? Because seems like a pretty close window.
It's one of those interesting things where like life imitates art, I guess, or I guess art imitates life. I got eloped in June of this year, and
you eloped.
Yeah, it was early in June, and it was right before the season started and the writers' room started, and I remember like telling Rachel about it, and then she was like, oh my gosh, congrats, like that's so great. And then like time passed, and then the season started picking up, and then we went through episode 1, and she's like, hey, by the way, episode 3, like, I think you guys are going to like get married. And I was like, oh, cool. And then she's like, yeah, but it's going to be like, you guys get eloped, and then like because you want a wedding, so you end up getting married later on. And it's funny because that's actually what's happening in my real life. And I told her that. I was like, I told you this a while back that I got eloped, and we're doing a real wedding, like a big ceremony and stuff later on in March. And she was like, "Oh, did you?" And I think I don't know. It must have been like
some kind of subconscious thing.
Yeah, subconscious thing or something. I know she was saying that the writers kind of wanted to go that route anyway with those characters. So yeah, it must have been. There's just a lot of similarities. I just thought it was super funny. So I'm once again not taking credit, but like it's just so funny how those things kind of happen. Yeah,
no kidding, man. So now that this show's over, what's next for you?
So yeah, we're still actually finishing up shooting through the new year and everything.
Oh, see, I've got you done already. So I'm jumping way ahead, apparently.
Yeah, we're still cranking away, man. But in the new year, I did a film that did the festival circuit, and I'm the lead in the film. It's called Flavor of Life, and that should be releasing on January 1st. So that'll be pretty dope for everyone to finally see that. Yeah, that'll be great.
All right, what is that about?
Flavor of Life. It's about this grandpa and grandson who they own a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and it's going out of business, and they're trying to save it.
Okay. Did you write part of any of this, or was this just something that you got involved with as an actor?
Yeah, it was something I got involved with as an actor. They sent me the script, and I read it over, and I thought there was a lot of there was just a lot of good family stuff in there that, like, I feel like I don't know. I'm a sucker for, like, family drama.
Yeah.
And then bringing some light to it. So I saw enough of that. I saw enough conflict. The grandson is coming back from jail, and he's trying to get his life straight. So that's why he takes a job at the grandpa's restaurant, to try to keep his life back in order.
Okay.
And so I mean, it was very interesting kind of take on a Latino relationship, because typically you see, Latinos being gangbangers or something, or
right.
being like, something that usually they're not. And it was really cool to see kind of a redeeming story.
Yeah, a good positive role for Latinos, right. Especially like you're saying, Latino males.
Right, exactly.
And you're also working on a documentary, You Break, I Fix.
Oh, you did some digging.
Yes, sir. Is that you still working on that?
Yeah, it's so I actually worked at You Break, I Fix early on whenever I first moved to LA, and I kept on hearing stories from the CEO and the brothers and the other employees and the founders, and it was such a cool story. I kept on hearing story after story after story, and every single store that I visited, that I worked in, because I worked in different stores in California, it was just a reflection of the company culture that they had. I was like, there's got to be something here. Like, what is going on? Like, why is it that I can be friends with any of these people?
Oh, neat.
And they started in Florida, and it's just crazy how, like, it's just pollinated all over.
So what kind of company is it? What do they do?
They fix laptops, and this feels like an ad for You Break, I Fix.
maybe they'll sponsor this episode.
They fix phone. Well, it's spelled like with a U, so it's like, instead of like a Y-O-U, it's just the letter U.
Yeah.
So You Break, I Fix.
Nice, I like that.
But yeah, they fix phones, laptops, game consoles, all this stuff, and yeah, I mean, I got to see how the company worked from the inside, and after I got into faking it and Crazy X, I stopped working there. I was able to work as an actor, but I kept in contact with all those people because they were such good friends, and then I had some extra time in my hands last hiatus, which ended a lot sooner. Last hiatus we ended in December, and then I had like January, February free and everything. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to tell your guys a story. So I went down to Florida. I recorded a bunch of interviews and found out some really cool stuff. And then I found out, oh, wow, I need to get more interviews. So I've just kind of been waiting until we go into hiatus again for Crazy X. And then I'm going to go back down to Florida to get some more interviews with some I guess, key people that I kept on hearing stories about. So I'll have to go back there and get that.
Oh, awesome. Now, I did do some research on you, and I did read an interview, and I wanted to ask you this because it kind of touched on this a little bit in the interview, but I just want to ask you directly. Do you feel like you've made it yet in Hollywood as an actor? Because I know you're not getting calls from your parents anymore asking you to come home.
Yeah, and the short answer is yes. Like, yes, I feel like I made it, but then I think the fascinating part is just the idea of making it. Not to go all artistic or anything like that, but I remember speaking to the high school students, and they were just like, it's so fascinating how they view things, and they're like, how long did it take you to book your first audition, and how to do that? I'm like, you cannot play that game. You can't, because if you focus on things like oh, where am I in my career opposed to this person, then the things that got you to that point, then you're not going to keep progressing. So to me, I feel like if I ever felt like, oh, sure, I made it, like, to me, that's complacency, right?
Okay, right.
So, but I also have to be aware that, like, yeah, in a sense, like, this is what I do for a living. So technically, as far as, that goes, like, yeah, I made it, but we haven't reached the pinnacle of what we're trying to achieve here,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I think you've made it because if you think about it, the measure of making it is when you're being interviewed by a middle-aged man on a podcast that he does in his dining room about the musical comedy that's wrapping up. That's pretty much making it. So, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Now, I got to ask you one more thing before I get into some of my listener questions here for you. I saw that you do other things besides acting, and one of those is an app called Busy.
Yes.
Now, can you explain what that is and where you are in the development of that?
We're actually launching really soon. We're in beta. We're launching into the App Store probably in a week and a half.
Oh, nice.
We really want to do it before Christmas, but yeah, that stemmed from, the show talks about mental illness and depression and all these other things. That actually stemmed from my own kind of battle coming to Los Angeles and dealing with a lot of different anxieties, dealing with, it's such a big city, and it's very hard to find time with people, and it's very hard to like connect on schedules, and there's so many anxieties with like planning stuff, like sending a text message, calling someone, especially if you haven't seen them in a bit. And the first thing you want to think is like, oh man, what if they're busy? What if, and then like I don't know, there's just so many anxieties that come with it.
Okay.
So I got together with some friends, and I have a background in graphic design, and I kind of put together a little prototype mock-up, showed it to some people. They were interested. Told my friends like the big picture. I was like, hey, this is where we can take it. This is all the stuff we can do. But first we got to build this small part of it. And they were on board. So one of them works at Netflix, and the other one actually works for UberFix. So they're both well versed in they're well versed in the business side of things.
And it comes full circle.
It comes full circle, man. And yeah, it's a really cool thing. Hopefully it's one of those things that it can be one of those actors that transitions into the whole Silicon Valley tech startup stuff, like an Ashton Kutcher type.
There you go. Well, look, I mean, you've got backups for your downtime in acting. So it sounds to me like things are working out for you. So let me ask you a couple of listener questions here, and I'll let you have the rest of your night. I've got from @Sarah Kieran's. She's got 3 questions. She wants to know if Hector has a last name.
Man, this has been a topic of discussion. Yeah, we've actually had this conversation within the cast, and I forget who brought it up. They brought it up, I think, season 3. They were like, because we were talking about, or maybe season 2, whenever we first introduced my mom.
Okay.
They were like, oh, Mrs. Hector's mom. They didn't really know what to say. So the solution was, instead of giving me a last name, they gave her a first name.
Okay.
So we have not had a last name. It's something that they're still going back and forth on, because they've had it. We've had conversations about what it would be, but I think they're still debating whether or not like they are actually going to reveal it, and if they do reveal it, then how would they reveal it?
I hate to tell you, they're running out of time.
Yeah. So that, like, part of me is like, I don't mind if they don't reveal it, because it could be almost like a Scrubs thing where you never know, like, really, the janitor situation.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be really cool to, like, just have that. You just never know Hector's last name. It'd also be really, really funny if he like took like Heather's last name or something, like I think her last name's like Davis, so it's like, oh yeah, it's wait, Hector, what's your last name? It's Davis. I took Heather's last name.
Sarah also wants to know, how's the insurance working out for him?
Oh, it's working out great. Good. I am I'm covered for acupuncture, and it's great, so it's helping out.
All right, good. And what is Hector's current state surfing rank?
It's gone down. It's gone down. It's gone down, unfortunately. Trust me, he would be the first to tell you if it went up to 201.
203. 4.
Yeah. I remember whenever I first was like, 202, I was like, interesting. And then I started thinking about it, I'm like, who checks that? Like, who's so proud of it? Like, unless you're in the top 100, like, who checks anymore, Like,
well, at that point, I mean, wouldn't like number 205 be like just some dude who gets out and is taking surfing lessons?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I believe I'm giving lessons now. I think that's my thing. Hector's giving lessons, so he's kind of falling off the rank.
All right. At Brandy M. Torres wants to. Actually, at first she wants to say congrats on getting married on and off screen, and then she wanted to know your feelings on closing the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend chapter for you.
Oh, well, thank you for the congratulations. It's a little bittersweet. It's one of those things where you look back on, you're like, wow, I've known these people for 4 years essentially, and you've built these friendships. But I don't know. It's one of those things where we're just trying to focus on enjoying the time now. Like, any opportunity we can get, like to hang out, to see each other off set. Like we try to take advantage of that. And we definitely want to make sure that we're enjoying this time instead of being like, oh man, it's over. Like we just want to enjoy it. And then I'm sure it's going to hit us all on the final episode or second to last episode. It's definitely going to hit us all.
So basically, it's like your senior year of high school because the series is ending. It's not like you're just getting canceled. So you're just trying to. I would compare it even
to our senior year of college. Because it's a tighter knit group. In high school, there's a wider net. And for the most part, most people can go to the same college. Like you can still pick that. Like, oh, if I'm really good friends with this person, I'm still going to go to this college. But once you're in college and you're seniors and you're graduating, you have a closer group of friends. So it's a lot tighter, and you've kind of gone through more of life together. And also, too, you don't have any control over where you're going to work. It's all up to employers.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's much better. Much better than high school.
Oh, I mean, either way.
All right, Brandy has 2 more questions, and I'll get to them real fast here. She wants to know why Hector and Heather didn't take Estrella with them. That's my Spanish accent.
Estrella, yeah. She, we had to leave her behind because sea animals can get a little anxious, and if you move them, they can actually, they can die. They can die in the moving. We didn't want to risk her life, so we just said it's better to let her stay put. I know this because I used to work at an aquarium. So
Wait, I didn't find that out at all. You used to work in an aquarium?
Oh, no. You'll only find it here.
Like, damn, I thought I was digging so deep, and I didn't find that at all.
There's no way. No, I used to work at Legoland and I believe it was called Sea Life. Yeah, Legoland and Sea Life in Grapevine Mills Mall. And we had a couple of cases where, like, animals would get anxious and they would die in transit. And it's just the nature of the beast. It's like aquariums. I guess it's like a dirty little secret, that it just happens. It just happens in transit.
And she wants to know, how is Hector's mom doing with no roommate since he isn't close by?
Oh, she's doing great. She's going out every night. She has her friend group. If anything, she's happy that finally everyone's gone. I've never seen Hector's mom as like someone that gets down whenever he's not around. I feel like she's the life of the party anywhere she goes.
Ah, there you go. So I have one last question for you. What was the worst audition you've ever been on?
Oh.
And that'll be the last question of the night, I promise.
Worst audition. I mean, man, there's been like, I think any actor could say they've had a lot.
You could look at it 2 ways, and I've asked a lot of people this, and I'll tell you what one of my friends mentioned. So he went in for one audition, and you can look at it as your worst performance or the worst thing you could have possibly seen it when you got to the audition. His was, he went there not exactly knowing what was going on, and they asked him to do a striptease for him, and they had a stripper pole in the room, and they asked him to do a striptease. So he decided to make it comedic and fall over the place and so you can take it either way.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I would say
you may know this gentleman too.
It was actually, I would say there was an audition whenever I went in and I wasn't right for the part. I remember even like reading the script and being like, oh, why am I auditioning for this character and not the other character? Okay, it's fine. So as I was, I read it, I memorized it, and I show up, and then the casting director thought I was reading for the other part, and I was like, no, I'm actually reading for this part. and then she was just as confused as I was.
Oh my god!
And then I could tell that she was like so disappointed, but she was like, all right, okay, that's fine. And then she didn't look at me. She didn't look up the entire time from the script.
Oh.
And there was no camera either. So I was very confused.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, and I was, it was one of those things where I was like, you go in and you're trying to focus on the script, and then as soon as I finished, I was like, man, that was what happened there? Like it was bad for me performance wise because I knew that I wasn't right for this part, and I knew that she knew I wasn't right for it. And then it was also bad because I'm just like, she's not even looking at me. Like, what's going on?
What kind of production was this? Man.
Yeah.
What kind of circus are you auditioning for? Man. Erick, look, I will let you go. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. I really do appreciate your time. Good luck with everything in the future. I'm anxious to see how everything unfolds for you. And
oh, yeah. Thank you, man. You're awesome.
No problem. Thank you. Hey, and good luck with everything, man. I'll be following you. I'm new to Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I really didn't know much about it until it's funny because as a 45-year-old guy, it's not really something I would have been drawn to. But what hooked me was your the monologue about parking, the parking garage.
Yeah,
that cracked me up.
Oh man, it's a completely like I try to tell my friends because as soon as they watch it and they get it and because originally you're like, oh, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, it's a chick show, whatever.
Yeah, but that drew me in. That made me a fan. So thank you for that.
Well, no problem, man.